All right. Well, listen, welcome to the webinar. Let's kick this off. There we go. All right. So the agenda today is first, we're going to talk a little bit about our guest panelists, what they're up to, and welcome them. And we're going to go into an introduction and overview on AI. Look, it's a very broad topic. And one of the challenges is some of you have used tools and are using tools, and some of you probably haven't jumped into the pool yet to swim. So we try to take a broad approach here, and I hope you can appreciate that. Know this, if you need any insights, if you're a more sophisticated user, you know how to follow me, Bryan K. O'Rourke. I'm there. I answer questions. I help people all the time with this, so don't be shy. Then we're going to go through topics, thoughts, questions, etc., with these experts from around the world. Then we're going to do a little Q&A with you. So let's get started. First, I have Tricia Madden, aka Murph. Tell us what's going on, Tricia. Thank you for being here.
I'm so glad to be here. My name is Tricia Madden. I'm with FitPro Programming, one of the co-founders of the program, and I work with Core Health and Fitness quite a bit on the education side with Vickey and her team. I also work in production quite a lot and had the chance to shoot some of the very first VR and AR content, and have sort of always had my hands in these different tools that are available to us. So I'm just so excited to be a part of it, and looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, and Tricia's very humble because she worked with Amazon and the Halo project, amongst a lot of other things. So thanks for being here. And Chris, my brother from another mother. I sat on the board with Chris. I've collaborated with Chris on a number of projects. Chris, tell us what's going on. I know you have a book coming out. I've been seeing you on the speaker circuit a lot. I know you're doing a lot of different advisory work. Tell us what's up.
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you for the invite to be on this panel. It's great to see everybody, and I'm excited for the discussions that we're going to have today. Chris Stevenson, 20 plus years in the fitness industry, owned and operated a couple different health clubs throughout those years. Currently, my focus is the Empower Group, or a full service consulting firm. So from keynotes to breakout sessions at different conferences and events, to training both on-site and virtually, workshops and staff development. And then we do strategic advising and partnerships with different organizations. But yeah, the book that you mentioned, it's called Fitness Facility Management. And I'm co-authoring it with Stephen Trotter, and it's going to be out this October. And it's sort of the A to Z encyclopedia of everything from how you develop your mission, vision, values to executing, marketing, and growing fitness businesses of all types. So really challenging and exciting project. And it's been 2 years in the works. So it's exciting to see that it's almost alive and out there.
I look forward to reading it, Chris. Thanks for being here. And next is Amy. I've known Amy for a very long time. I knew her when she was 4 years old, and she's only 20 now. So it's been amazing 16 years, Amy. I know Idea's coming up as well in 8 weeks. Amy, thanks for being here. Tell us what's going on.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Amy Boone Thompson. I live in San Diego, California, and I started my career as a personal trainer, and today I'm the owner and CEO of Idea Health and Fitness Association. And we also produce events. We provide continuing education for every Fit Pro, regardless of what stage you are in the industry. And in 8 weeks, we will be at Idea World in Los Angeles, California, celebrating together, inspiring one another, and just upskilling. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you for being here, Amy. You always bring great depth to anything that you become a part of. So we're very grateful to have you. And finally, Ted, my brother from another mother, fitness tech strategist, doer of many things. I know you have a book coming out as well, Ted. Tell us what's going on. Thanks for being here.
I do. Thanks for having me. I have a book, The Fitness Pro's Guide to ChatGPT. So we're going to be talking about that here pretty soon. And I started my career in Washington, D.C. as the director of the Fitness Center for the White House. And it's been an uphill since then. And I feel a little old. Chris is 20 years in the industry. I just passed 30 years. So it's been a while. But in all those years, it was how to use technology to allow yourself to work smarter, not harder. So I'm excited about the conference that we're going to have here. And Bryan, I was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and I tell you what, I did not know that Mardi Gras was such a big party.
Well, listen, I rode a float Monday night. I should have. I know you're doing some work with Tulane. Shame on me. I would have made you come along for the ride. But great to see you, Ted. Glad you enjoyed Mardi Gras. So before we get started, thanks to Fit Pro Programming for the support, and of course, Core Health and Fitness for putting this on, which I'm the CEO
I
of.
was just gonna say,
Yeah.
can we get to a little bit about you?
I don't like to talk.
Okay,
Or
well,
if I don't like to
I
talk,
mean, I feel like we could just use a little there. You're like an onion.
peel it
flavors.
away, man. Peel it away. Just follow me, Bryank O'Rourke, on every social platform, and you'll find out a little bit about what I do. So anyway, so let's get started. First, I'm going to do a quick overview, very simple. For those of you that already know some of this stuff, forgive me. Some of you are more aware than others, but you've heard AI used a lot in terms, and people, machine learning, there's all kind of different dynamics. But basically, it's the science of building machines that can learn, reason, and act in ways that seem like human intelligence, the Turing test, for those of you who know. And an interesting cocktail party question. What does GPT stand for in ChatGPT?
I don't know.
See, there you go. It's generative pre-trained transformer. Remember that. Say that 3 times fast and see what happens. So, and what the new levels of ChatGPT, which is a certain type of AI, can do, if you've seen 4.0 come out, we'll talk about, is it can see now, it can use a camera on your phone, it can understand text, it can analyze data, pictures, it's creative, it's an incredibly powerful tool. For those of you that haven't used it, I'm going to show you a little bit more about this. ChatGPT relies on what's called large language models. And it's a type of AI, and it recognizes and generates text, amongst other things. It uses huge amounts of data and then processes that data to start figuring out patterns. Basically, that's what it does. And if you don't have it yet, there are many different types of AIs right now that use this technology. There's Claude. You've seen Baird, which is Google's form. It's becoming embedded in Google for search. It's ubiquitous. It shows up in Perplexity. There's a lot of different platforms. ChatGPT arguably is the most powerful one. And I'd get it on my phone if I was you and download and start playing with it. We'll show you some of its features. Here's a quick little overview for those of you that don't know what this does. There's no sound, so don't be disappointed you're not hearing anything. But this shows you what you can do. Go to OpenAI or ChatGPT.com, and you can see what this does. It's you don't need any technical expertise, right?
No, it's easy.
It's very
You
easy.
can hit enter.
That's right. And you just learn to talk like you're talking to your best friend and or your business partner, depending on what the use case is. So let's go for here. Oh, there we go. Another thing that's interesting about this, I'm going to share a couple of resources with you all that can help you learn more for those of you that are interested. Jennifer Marievo is one person. You can find her on YouTube, Instagram, etc. Great content, very practical in her applications. I would recommend her content quite a bit. One of the things you're going to learn in using these things are prompts. And I know Ted's shared some prompts in his content for trainers, etc. Is teaching you how to talk to the AI in the most effective way possible is a big part of it. And it's really a mind shift when you start playing with it. You have to kind of change the way you think a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a little different. There's another thing that's going on that we've been playing around with at Core and my other organizations for a number of months is you can create specific chatbots that are experts in certain areas. So like IDEA could have its own ChatGPT. I'm sure Amy's playing with that. I would bet any money. All the brands that Core owns, we've been training AIs for StairMaster, for Schwinn, for Star Trek. We're training these bots to be experts in that. And you can apply that for many different things as a trainer or a facility, a fitness facility. You could have, Murph's training bot that would tell you anything you want to know, right?
Yeah, a lot of things.
Yep, that's right. So that's kind of a cool thing. It's not that hard to do. Another thing, you're going to see these pictures here. I know Amy's going to get into this in a little more detail later on. It's not just text, it's imagery. So you see these 3 little ads down at the bottom. In fact, Vickey was in my office and I was showing her this. These took less than a minute each. And you just talk to the AI and say, hey, I want a promotional piece for a post for social media to promote these things. Now, this may not be your flavor of promotion, but you can go in there and say, make it look stylized like it came from the 70s. Make it look this way. So Dolly, which is part of ChatGPT's universe, can do this in no time whatsoever. So this is an example of the kind of tools that this technology provides. And here's another no sound video to give you a better idea of what it does. For those of you that don't know, you can see they go to Dolly, type in what you're looking for. You can see it'll automatically generate content. And what's interesting about 4.0, the new release, is you can upload images to it. It'll learn that, and then you can modify it with that information to have it generate things that are very customized for your needs. You can see how quickly it generates the graphic. I mean, it's very, very fast. So Amy's going to get into this when it comes to marketing. You can see the polar bear images. Isn't that cool? So that gives you an idea of what that looks like. Another thing before we get into the Q&A and specifics, our AI is not just these kind of tools. AI is showing up in all of the technologies we use. So a Sensei is what's called an SDK, which is it's a technology tool that plugs into other applications. So for example, one of our companies, Vertimax, is just releasing a tool in an app that watches the form of people doing jumps. It relies on a Sensei's technology to do what it does from a visual AI perspective. We can see AI used for personalization in products like Whoop. We can see it in Lumina and other products that are out there now, looking at form, automatically creating workouts that are personalized, etc. So the technology is becoming quite ubiquitous. Here's another thing that Amy may touch upon later in nutrition. She brought this up in our call yesterday, January AI. So instead of having to worry about keying things in, you just pull your camera out, look at the food, and it's going to tell you all the nutritional information or scan a barcode. It helps you manage glucose, so you don't even have to have a monitor per se if you're trying to manage your sugar and any kind of pre-diabetic condition or whatever. These are examples of tools that are here now that rely on AI to do great things for people. And then finally, in the club environment itself, you're seeing an equipment like our partner eGym with Genius that's recently come out, where they're embedding the AI guidance personalization technologies into their equipment. So we see this kind of technology, Murph, being introduced all over the place. One final resource before we start asking our smart people questions is this guy. So if you want to learn how to use this technology well, go to this guy.
I'm going to send that out.
Yes, we'll send this out. Connor Grennan, I think is how you pronounce his name, but he's great on TikTok, great on Instagram, great on LinkedIn. I think you're really going to like his content because it's very practical. Mm-hmm. And it's very entertaining and to the point, and he really spends a lot of time talking about mindset and using the tool, which is really important. So as you said, we'll
send everything you just referenced. We'll send a full reference sheet so that they can access all the information.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Thank God we have that. I love that. All right, so we kind of broke up some general topics for our experts to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I think it's awesome to start with Mr. Chris to talk a little about various AI tools for fitness pros, tracking, measurement, and then we'll have a brief conversation. Chris, you got the floor, my brother.
All right. Well, you know what? Again, thanks for having me today. They always say don't be the smartest person in the room, and this is don't be the smartest person on the Zoom. So I feel honored to be working with all of you and looking forward to all of your insights. My colleagues are going to get into specific tools, but as an overview, 5 years ago, the conversation I think was, should I be using AI? And now the conversation is, I have to be using AI, and how do I maximize the benefits of AI to enhance my businesses? So again, no longer is it a question whether you do or you don't, you do. And it's those of us and those studios and those fitness professionals that use it the most effectively and efficiently that are going to see the most benefit from it. But the bottom line is when you use tools like this, you're going to increase productivity, personalization, efficiency. And as a fitness professional or studio owner or club owner, it frees you up to do the things that you love doing, which is the interaction with people and the training and the teaching and all of those things. So I know I'm preaching to the choir because if you're on this Zoom, you obviously understand the importance and you want to learn more about using AI. But when you think about AI in general and the various tools, especially for Fit Pros, we've got tools that will be covered later again by my colleagues on tracking. As Bryan sort of mentioned, there's software like I know Peloton has one that tracks your movements, and now Vertimax is going to have that and give you that instantaneous feedback. There's program design AIs for people now. There's coaching, AI through chat bots, through workouts. And when it comes to studios, there's your typical stuff that's just getting smarter with AI, which is your member management software, your CRMs, the communication tools. But it's really, it's an interesting thing. When it comes to AI, I was fairly tech averse and I was a slow adopter historically, and now I'm not. The amount of time that is freed up again to focus on the important stuff like growing your business through the use of the different AI technologies is just huge. So I think the pros far outweigh the cons. Now we have to be careful, and I know that I think Ted, you're going to address some of the things that you have to be cautious with when you're using these AI tools. But again, they're here to stay. It's important. For example, last year or 2 years ago at Ursa, my business partner and I presented on Canva. And, Canva is a great tool. Now Canva has all these AI tools built into it. And what was interesting is the way we approached the session was with Canva, there's so much you can teach. And we weren't really sure how to structure this whole session. So Canva has a tool similar to ChatGPT called Magic Write. And you can go in there and type what you're looking for and it will produce something. So we literally went in there and said, write an outline for how to teach a group of people in 60 minutes how to maximize the features of Canva. So it spit out the outline and we used that outline to do it. And what was interesting for the actual session itself is that's how we teed it up. We started the session and said, hey, everybody, there's a lot to teach and we weren't sure how to go about doing this and how to structure it to make sure you got the most benefit out of this session. But we figured out a method, and we'll come back to that later. We taught the class, and at the very end said, now, the final thing we want to show you is this thing called Magic Write. And this is how we created today's session. So it's just, it's incredible. It's those of us who attend Zoom webinars like this that are out there and going after the resources that Bryan shared that are going to maximize our ability to do this. And it's just going to continue to get smarter. Bryan mentioned the new Chat GPT where you can have these conversations. And I was reading up on that this morning, and it's really fascinating and amazing because just when you think it can't get any smarter, it does. And with this new thing in the conversation, it said before you could talk, but then it would have to translate the voice into usable data, then translate that data back into something that they could feed back to you. And now the technology is there where it's instantaneous. It hears what you're saying and can respond immediately, very accurately. So it's just going to continue to get smarter and smarter. So I would advise fitness professionals, club and studio owners to take advantage because it is definitely a game changer in your organizations.
So thanks, Chris. Excellent. Murph, what's your experience with measurement tracking? What do you know? I know, having worked with the Hollow Project and other things, what are your insights?
Well, early on, we found that there were big issues, right? There was, as we were getting information in, for example, watching someone do a push-up and trying to pull that information, what we discovered is it wasn't making accommodation for a lot of different things, from body type to height, to all the things. I mean, a push-up for someone who has a chest or belly or is something different is very different. So in the beginning, it was really a test of having to build different, teach it to look at things a little different. So in the beginning, it felt like we were teaching it more than we were taking from it. And of course, it's now flipped. And as it became smarter and smarter, we had to do less and less. But it was certainly in the beginning a really fun challenge to try to teach it to do what we needed it to do. And then of course
it's like having a 2 or 3 year old, you teach them to speak and then you can't shut them up once
exactly.
Exactly. I mean that in jest.
Yes.
But what about you, Amy? I mean, what are your thoughts on the measurement tracking and other things? What are you seeing and thinking about regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, nearly every supplier that you're going to see at our event or that works with us is offering a tool that is enhanced by AI. So it will enhance the customer's experience, but also you as the professional. I think it just gives us so many more tools to address the client with. And so, I just think that every type of equipment now has a tech-enabled feature, or it has this learning in place where it just makes both the user and the professional a lot smarter and efficient.
Yeah, I agree. And Ted, what are your thoughts and insights on this?
Bryan, you mentioned I teach at Tulane. It's not going to surprise you that I often get in trouble with the traditional academics because I teach ChatGPT in the classroom at the university level. I look at it this way. Would I have used a tool like this back at the White House? And the answer is absolutely yes. I would want my staff to use this. So it's part of my duty as a professor to teach people how to do these things. And Chris, I want to go back to something you were saying earlier about trainer. There's a word before the word trainer. It's personal. That's what we're not going to lose that piece to it. And I put out a tweet a while ago. It's not a trainer. Don't be afraid of using AI because you need to know how to use that because your competition is using it and they're going to far outstage you. So it may be scary, but as Bryan said earlier, you've got a wealth of information available to you. Even on ChatGPT, you can type it in there. I use it on a daily basis. In fact, when I write an email now, I'll write I want to write sentences. It's just, and I'll say, I want this to sound more professional. I want this to sound funnier. I want this to sound whatever it is. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but Bryan and Murph, the thing I like is, I've written a lot of different things. So I've actually trained ChatGPT to sound like me. So
right.
I could give a topic. Chris, give me a topic. Say something.
Cleveland Browns football.
I could say to Chat, I'll type in right now, I want you to write an article about Cleveland Browns football from the perspective of a Steelers fan. Make it sound like me. And it does it. It's amazing. So this is one of the things, not only in the fitness industry, but out there that really is, I'm careful about saying the word game changer, but I think it's a game changer.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very good observation. Ed, thank you for that. All right, let's talk, Murph, Tricia, let's talk a little bit about virtual coaching, kind of what you're seeing there, what you're thinking about when it comes to AI and that dynamic. And you'd be a good person to ask.
Yeah. In the infancy of it. Well, first and foremost, I like to start from how you're attracting clients virtually. And one of the things that you can learn from AI is how to speak to your different muses. So if, or the clients you want, I use muse as a term because when I'm speaking or promoting personal training or group training in a virtual experience, I need to make sure that my voice and that my words, maybe even my imagery, is speaking to the person I want to attract. So in my world, I teach I call it athletically aging, 45 to 65-year-olds. So for me, it's really important that my words are inclusive, that my language speaks to that age group. Even though I'm in that age group, I still want to look and improve how I'm communicating. I also want it to allow me to speak to all cisgender males, cisgender females, and everyone in between. And I think that is where it starts, is as a trainer, how do I help myself speak to a broader audience or a more narrow audience? So if you're finding that you have a specific client, so say you like to train professional athletes, if you start with putting in how to speak to a professional athlete, now you're able to see those words and then start to create the marketing materials and start the storytelling for social media tiles. So that for me is the first thing. Then I jump into the marketing piece and the social media exposure. And the best thing about ChatGPT is you could go into it today and say, what are the top 10 hashtags for any of the social media apps for populations 45 to 65? What are the tags? I mean, it just gives you the current information if you ask it in the right way. So what I like to say is you want to prompt AI with more than generalizations. You want to use it to make you better, not to replace you, so that you have that voice. From a virtual perspective, there's a lot of companies developing products for even independent instructors to have virtual clients and be measuring and providing the information about how their form is and what's happening even if you're with them live stream.
Right.
There's also incredible technology where you could be teaching a Facebook class, charging everybody $25 a class, and the AI is looking at the form of the people in their homes and giving that back to you. So now your cues, your queuing hierarchy includes what AI is telling you to say. Of course, there's growth in this. We're not quite there in every way, and there's a lot of considerations that we have to think about. Even race is an important one. Remember, we're all different shapes and sizes, and so there's some there's a ways to go, but we're getting really close to being able to communicate in that way. For me, the challenges definitely come from not understanding every client behind that virtual experience. So that is the challenge, but it's also the opportunity. One of the largest growing populations in fitness and one of the biggest opportunities are true beginners, right? And are people that would only work out virtually right now, right? Those people that are behind those black boxes that tried virtual experiences during COVID. And largely our industry has left them behind. COVID, we started to rebound from COVID. And what can we do now to reach out to them? And I typed that in to ChatGPT, and I dare all of you to do it. How do I reach people that I communicated with during COVID via Zoom? And let me tell you, it'll tell you 10 ways to do that. So if you're a trainer and you're, where did those people go? That's one way to think about it. For me, I think the downside is if you're not using ChatGPT with the correct prompts, you can get misleading information. So Lynn Kravitz teaches a workshop on glute training and core training. One of the things he says is if you type into Google, you know, how to do a squat, you get, I think it's something like 40,000 answers. Right. But certain, if you upgrade to certain parts, if you pay for the upgrade, you oftentimes get higher results in ChatGPT. So just having the basics, sometimes you get sort of a broad reach of cues and information. And then the other thing to remember is that exercise is now not completely linear. If you or I, did you play sport?
Yeah.
Football. So you played
American football.
American football. You played American football. Amy was a nearly professional volleyball player, as is her daughter almost, and dancer, right? So in my body, certain exercises look very different. Functional foot patterns are different. So if you see me sitting here right now, I'm probably in external rotation. You would not be. So it doesn't always.
You are an external rotation.
That's not true for me. So there are pieces of the story that are important. So you might actually have to be more specific when coaching. You might have to type in ChatGPT. I'm working with a 45-year-old former professional volleyball player.
You mean 28-year-old?
A 28-year-old. That's right, Amy. I'm sorry. 28. And that you have to get more specific. And I will share an article that Mike Hansen provided to us about how to prompt AI to give you more succinct answers. So that's a little bit of.
Yeah, great insights. Another thing before we move on to panelists is data. So with 4.0 now, you can take reams of data. So if you're measuring data out of any kind of app or other apparatus, and you're looking at training, it could be any number of variables. You can upload that and ask the system to analyze it around certain dynamics. So if you're taking sleep, training hours, nutrition, et cetera, you're tracking these variables. So for very sophisticated trainers, that's also, you start blending the things that you describe with that hard data and other things, you're going to gain insights.
A lot.
Highly personalized insights, right?
Right.
Which is just very powerful. Ted, tell us some of your thinking on this, my friend.
I think Chris mentioned it earlier. I actually named my ChatGPT. I'm an Iron Man fan, so I call it Jarvis. And when I talk to it, it actually says, "Good morning, Ted. How are you?" And I have a conversation back and forth. It makes it feel more real. And I think that's important for us to have. I started a class at Tulane, a master's class on health informatics, where I gave my students 10,000 rows of data. I didn't tell them what to do with it. And I said, I want you to find something out of this data. Last year, I taught it by hand, and they had to do it by hand. This year, I said, use ChatGPT. And the results were amazing. I mean, it was actually a data set I used for my PhD. And I think if I did my PhD now, and I did this 10 years ago, it took me 2 years to evaluate all the data I had. I'm not kidding you when I say it probably would take me 2 months now. And I would have cut my PhD in half. So it's very, very powerful when it comes to what it can do. I think Tricia mentioned where it gets the information from. One of the things I put at the end of all my prompts, and give me citations. Give me the sources of where you get this from. I've actually seen it, Brian, where it gives me a citation and it says idea, and then I'll say, show me the actual article from idea, and it says, oh, I made it up. So you have to be real careful of how you use ChatGPT, because the last thing I would want to do is to have anyone on the meeting say, write something with ChatGPT, not go back and look at it and send it out. That's a disaster waiting to happen. I think it's our duty as professionals in the industry that we do that. Going back to Chris's point, it gives us more time to do what we got in this industry for, and that is to help people live their lives healthier. And it's funny, Brian, if we think about this as a child, we're in the terrible twos when it comes to this technology. If we give this talk 2 weeks from now, it's totally different. Just recently, 4.0 came out, or the 4, whatever they're called, the 4 Plus. Brian, I know you saw the announcement. It's going to fix your problem with audio. You're going to be able to talk, and it's going to know what you're saying. So I can't wait for this stuff to come out. And Tricia was talking about prompting. I'll give you a little trick. I have a Word document over 100 pages of prompts. I use it once, I save it, and then I reuse it. I actually have prompts that probably are 20 lines long, and I get a result of 2 lines. But it's being that specific because that's what you need to do. It's like baking a cake. You can use the cheap ingredients or you can use the good ingredients. I want to use the good ingredients. And there's nothing wrong with reusing the information that you have before. So I'm excited. If you can't tell, this is good. I'm glad that I'm in this industry right now, because what we're going to be able to do, we're helping lives. We're helping live healthier.
That's absolutely awesome, Ted. You're right on point. Amy, what do you want to add to this?
Yeah, just to add, I mean, just like the tool gets to know you and your voice, over time, it will get to know your clients as well. And I think if you're using it, especially for a specific client, over time of building programs with the tool, it will begin to really have a very clear avatar of that client and their needs. And what's cool, and I'll talk about this in marketing, is it adapts so it can progress with you and your client, right? And I was just going to add, one of our top performing articles on ideafit.com, it was written in April 2023. That's like the early stages of chat GPT. It's a top performing article called 50 AI chat GPT prompts for fitness professionals. And it's the top performing. So everybody's curious. Our pros are using the tool, but I agree, there are a lot of cautions about making sure that the information you're getting back is right for your client. You have to layer in your expertise and make sure that it's the best path forward before you just cut and paste.
Yep, absolutely right. Chris, any additions here?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think there tends to be a hesitancy sometimes with personal trainers, because you've worked so hard to build this knowledge base and the way you approach everything. And now you're talking about virtual coaching and AI and the tracking. So there can be this hesitancy, but as both Amy and Ted mentioned, it's still based on your expertise. Like if you want to be great at ChatGPT, you've got to put in the time to learn it and understand it. And those trainers who put that effort and time into that are going to utilize it the best and get the best results. The other piece, Ted, you had mentioned, if you're not going to do it, your competition is, and you're going to be left in the dust. It's here, it's a tool, and it's incredible, and it's the norm. And, I think about Zoom, if prior to the pandemic, if I would have said, hey, Amy, can I personal train you via Zoom? You'd have been like, no, weirdo. Like that, there's no chance that's happening. Or how about anyone who's had a happy hour on Zoom? Right? Like before that, you'd have been like, hey, do you want to meet virtually for drinks? You'd have been like, no, and go get some help, because obviously you have an issue. but it's the norm now, right? So whether you like it or not, this is the norm. People are used to using it. They use it in all other industries, all this AI and technology. And, you know, again, back to Ted's point about your competition using it. Remember, we're not just compared to other fitness professionals. We're compared to Amazon and Starbucks in the way you check into a hotel. People expect those sort of things, and all those organizations, which tend to be a little faster at innovation than fitness, they're all using it. So I want it to be as easy to join a gym and get some coaching and get some information and get answers to questions as it is to do it when I go on my app for Southwest to book a flight. So people are going to expect that same level. So it's essential that everybody adopts these practices.
Yeah, and one thing, Murph, I think we've talked about this before we move on, is here, if there's anything you're going to listen to, if you're going to listen to anything, listen to this. In today's world, knowledge is not as important as curiosity. Better questions are more valuable than information. And this is the kind of mind shift we all have to adopt. So Ted, let's talk about engagement and personalization, my friend. You have the floor.
Engagement. I did a survey a while ago to personal trainers, and I asked them, how often do you communicate with your clients? And the number was shocking. It was less than what I thought it was. And I asked some additional questions. Well, why is that? And they said, well, I don't know what to say. So with engagement, let's look at it from a perspective of how to keep your clients engaged, staying top of mind. Well, I could take the list of health themes every month and tell ChatGPT to give me a blog post based on, we'll say, February Heart Month. Give me a blog post for Heart Month. And like I said, Bryan, it'll take a minute. Then you could say, give me 100 tweets specific to that blog post. It does it. Give me 100 Facebook posts, and it does it. Give me an email that I can send out announcing February is the month of heart health. It does it. All that I just did, if we did that now, it would it'd probably take Chris an hour, but it'd probably take me 5 hours to do. I'm not kidding. Coming up with 100 tweets is a lot. It'll do it in 5 minutes, if not faster. So the engagements is what I think is really going to be able to set you apart from the competition. We were talking earlier about data and being able to upload the data. I wear the Whoop, and Whoop was one of the first ones to come out with what they call it the Whoop AI. And I noticed that I didn't sleep well one night. And I asked it, well, what did I do? Why was it? And I had a conversation back and forth of why it could have been. I remember when I was back at the White House, and somebody would say, I don't feel like working out today. And Amy, I don't know if Amy's done it, but I bet you Chris and Bryan have. We come up with an answer. Well, Mr. President, the reason you don't want to work out today is because you probably ate something that didn't sit well with you. Now with AI and these tools, we can say, look, we know that you have a reaction to caffeine after 5 o'clock. And based on the data from your Whoop and your sleep, you didn't get into the restful part of your sleep last night. And because you didn't get into that, cardio is not something you should do today. Today should be a day that you take off. And you get all that information, put it into ChatGPT, and it'll write an email for you saying, here is exactly what's happening, and here's why it's happening. So it's going to allow us to be even more personalized when it comes to what it is that we want to do when it comes to sharing that information with our clients.
Very good insights. Any quick additions here?
Can I give a con?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I think one of the cons is when you're creating these personalization engagement points, you have to really think through who that person is. So it's hard to be a generalist and be communicating with 500 people and do that. So I think one thing clubs have to do is segment some of these follow-up conversations, whether you're a trainer or group fitness instructors, I think we need to be tracking which audience we're talking to so that we're not sending the same information out. What you want to hear from your club versus what I want to hear, and my persona versus your persona is different. So there's a little bit, for me, there's some work to be done from a club perspective, which can probably be done by AI. But to just make sure that we're able to speak to, that it's very hard to speak to a large audience in an environment where you're working with membership.
Yep, CRM and creating cohorts. Chris, any additions? Good point.
Yeah, I think Trish, what you said was really important. And I think again at the onset of AI and chatbots, people would judge and they'd be like, "This isn't real. I know this is just some sort of software." But now it's so commonplace that it's okay, and it gets people quicker results and it gets people quicker information. And knowing where that line is, though, to Trish's point of where it has to be personal and it has to be real. So in a simple way, like there's, obviously clubs use softwares that track attendance and they can automatically ping people when they see changes in attendance behaviors to get them back in the club. That's awesome. People expect it. They're okay because AI is the norm now. But there is a time when all of a sudden a human being has to take over. I had some flight issues yesterday flying home from Portland, and they give you the option. Do you mind interacting with the chatbot, or you can stay on hold? In this particular case, it was better for me to stay on hold. Other times I use that little chat feature that they text me and it is perfect and solves my problem. So I think to your point, people expect it. It's okay. They don't judge. They don't care as long as they're getting the results they're looking for. But knowing when it has to be human and it has to be real interaction. The other thing that Ted, that you said I thought was really good, and I think it is worth repeating, is that when you utilize these tools right, it is actually more personalized. People feel like, well, it's, if I'm going to use these tools, they're good, but they're not going to be as personal. But used correctly and everything that all the panelists have talked about, it becomes even better and more personalized. So don't forget that.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Amy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, we just switched platforms, and using AI was one of the catalysts for this, so we could be more digital forward. And right now, our chatbots are learning our members' questions and preferences. So just like, we're just 4 months in, and we still have a full personal team that will pick up the phone, to Chris's point, but we're thinking of this as, hey, it's learning the frequent questions. We're using it for our training internally to make sure that we upskill all of our people. And then eventually there's going to be a lot of these questions that members can self-serve. And so that's really the beauty of it. And I'll talk in a minute about all the cost savings that will bring for people. But that's how we're using it right now for our Inspired service team.
That makes complete sense. So Ted, another follow-on for you. Let's talk about nutrition. We looked at January AI. We know that these chatbots can do all kind of prescriptive nutrition plans. Tell us your views on this.
I've talked to a lot of trainers, and what I'm hearing is them saying, how dare people use ChatGPT to create a workout? They're taking away from my livelihood. And I think the message is important for us to think of the same way when it comes to nutrition. How dare we create plans for food nutrition when it's not part of our scope of practice? So nutrition is one of those where it's hard to use technology for. It's hard to use, well, it can be hard for AI, but from a perspective of us telling our clients what to do, we have to be very, very careful when it comes to that, because you don't want to be the source of bad information. This leads to another example of why it's important to have a team around you. Have a nutritionist, and swap. You do the nutrition, I'll do the fitness. Do that, and let them do the AI. I did something the other night. There's an app that does this, but I did it myself. I went through my cupboard. I put everything in my cupboard in ChatGPT, and I said, "Give me some options for dinner tonight." I had the best pork chops and applesauce I've had in a long time, with the ingredients that I've been sitting there for want to get rid of. You can put the expiration dates on there, and it'll tell you, "Hey, your milk's run out. You better bake a cake or something, because you gotta do that." So nutrition is hard, but I want to go back to someone mentioned the picture. I think this election year is going to be quite interesting to see how they use AI, and how the other candidate is going to use AI against the opposing candidate. Couple of months ago, you might have seen the Pope wearing this very, very expensive Italian coat, and people are saying, "Well, how dare the Pope wear this coat?" I actually got an email from the Diocese of San Diego saying it was fake. So we have to be careful. And I know, Bryan, you might know better than I do, but Adobe and I think AP and some of these other organizations are coming up with a way that if it's authentic, there's a little tag in the bottom of the corner, so you know that it's authentic. And that's what we're going to have when it comes to this. I spoke at Amy's conference in Chicago, and Bryan, I know you saw this. I said 70% of the tasks that you as a personal trainer do can be replaced and done better by AI. I'm going to change that and say it's probably closer to 80%. I got a little pushback from it, and I enjoyed having a conversation on LinkedIn. And when people realized what I was telling them, that don't see this as a threat. Gary V, our fun mentor that I know I follow him, he had this analogy of, if you think about the 1900s, a lot of individual family farms, that's how we got our produce. And then the tractor came around, and the tractor basically changed farming. But look what it also did. Those farmers now had an opportunity to be part of a production team. They became the mechanics for the tractors. They became the salespeople for the tractors. So yes, while technology then changed jobs, it created better jobs, because the jobs that were created were paying better than the ones that they replaced. And I think we're going to do the same thing here in fitness, probably nutrition as well, where yes, the way in which we do something today is going to change. And the other thing I said was, AI is not going to replace you. It's a personal trainer that uses AI that's going to replace you.
Great insights, Ted. I also like the apps. We mentioned January AI, MyFitnessPal, they're building in now AIs where even if you're not giving nutritional advice, you can at least advise your clients to use tools like this. You set up the basic macros, caloric deficit, caloric, whatever kind of profile you want to set up, and it automates, like you said, it'll tell you the grocery list, it'll do all these things, right? What are your thoughts on applications with nutrition?
For nutrition, it's always it's a really dangerous place to live in, because human bodies are all in a different space. Yep. So our age, our hormones, I have an incredibly low metabolic rate because I have a really low resting heart rate, but I was born with it. So it's just how it is. So I can't eat a lot, but I can. But again, we don't know the nuances of the human body. So when we give information from AI, what we need to do is look at it, but then use our talent as a personal trainer and as a leader to have the hard conversation. Okay, here's a basic plan for you with this goal in mind. Tell me a little bit about, how nutrition is fit into your world. What have your other patterns been? So everything, and then you can actually put it into the chat, get more information, but it is the conversation that will actually make the chat or the information.
Yeah, absolutely true. Amy, what do you have to add?
Just two things. Tracking, it's a game changer. I mean, when I did a fitness competition, I had to write down every single thing I ate, go research how many calories. That was years ago. But now, think about how easy this is going to make it for your clients to report back to you. What are they consuming? All they have to do is run their phone over it and put it into some other bot that sends it to you, and you can summarize and then send them some feedback. And the second point is, I would say, just like everyone's cautioning, this is a place you really want to either gain expertise if you don't know this, nutrition profiles and how to write programs, or lean into a team of allied health professionals that can help you review proper nutrition plans. This does not give you your RD or a nutrition certification.
That's right. That's exactly right. Chris?
Yeah, and Amy, that's exactly what I was thinking too. I mean, anybody can go on there and try to create something, and it's, to Tricia's point, it's such a nuanced subject where it's just so different for individuals. So again, having the knowledge, the background, and then utilizing the tools to enhance that and help you become more efficient and personalize everything. That's where it's at. It's not simply write a new 6-week diet for a client. Anybody can do that. But that ties really nicely into what Ted said before, is AI is not going to replace you. A nutritionist who knows how to properly use AI is going to replace you. Right. And I think that's the big thing to remember, because, in our industry, there's always hacks out there who just make stuff up. They don't have the proper qualifications. And, it's funny, where I get my hair cut, it's at a barber shop. It's like the coolest thing I do, in my opinion. Like there's sports and they give you a beer and they talk trash. It's, you know, good old fashioned barbershop. But then all these like $5 and $10 barbershops popped up. So I said to the barber, I said, how do you deal with this? He goes, oh, I fix $5 haircuts. Right. So the nutritionist, the trainer with the credentials, you know, the proper certs that attends things like this and goes to IDEA and learns and upskills all the time, and then utilizes AI properly, they're going to fix all the $5 personal trainers and $5 nutritionists. So again, that's so important. You still need to have the proper knowledge and education, and then this just enhances it. It does not replace it.
Yeah, as my MyFitnessPal just sent me a message a couple minutes ago, you haven't logged in your breakfast today because I've been intermittent fasting. I'll let it know. So anyway, yes, good observations, good observations. So Amy, we're going to talk and hear your view on marketing.
How are we doing on time? Are we still good? Everybody hanging in there?
Yeah, we got about 40 minutes, I think, or so.
Okay, great.
On the first slide?
Yeah, let's start on the first. So, so just thinking high level of how marketing can help your business. And by the way, this is all coming from the perspective of a CEO. So I'm not in the nitty gritty with my team every day to inform how they're going to use it. But I think I was invited to the panel so I can show you Dummy 101 for how to use this tool right away to impact your business. So I'll share some of the ways that I'm personally using it in my role. But I think just thinking big picture from a marketing perspective is this is just an outline to think about when you're starting to use AI in your marketing plan. We've hit on a lot of this today, but really, really understanding your goals and your audience. That's what your marketing team or yourself needs to really dig into. We call our audience our IDEA member or our avatar, and we try to be as specific as possible. And we have a lot of different avatars within the business. So if we're speaking to our yoga instructors versus, you know, a strength and conditioning coach, we want to make sure that we're providing a different layer to the communication. Also with your prompts, providing those clear instructions, we've covered that extensively, and go back and add extra context. So once it spits something out for you, remember, you can go back and ask it more questions or tell it to change its tone. And I'll share some examples of that quickly that you can, just to help make it more real for you. And then you can also use this tool just to structure campaigns. And so I'm going to show you some easy examples about that. And then building the content for different elements of the business. So let's move, Bryan, to the next slide, and I'll just show you what this is. Just a cut and paste of how I was playing with ChatGPT earlier. So this is an example of a campaign creator, high level. So all I did was just tell it, listen, I'm trying to create a campaign for my fitness and wellness center, and we're promoting a new program, and my target audience is this busy fitness professional. So it gave me a kind of a script or a list of how I want to go about this. And then also, do you want it to be an email series? Do you want to create social media posts? Do you want blog articles? So you can dig into these each in a more specific way. So I just copied that top prompt, create an email series to introduce our new online program as a next step, because yes, I want to create an email. So on the next slide, Bryan, you'll see I put that back into the GPT and it spits back to you your email script. So now I have a script that I could use for my first email to promote a new online personal training program. And all I need to go in then is go and either copy it to a Word document and make it to your liking and tailor it, or you can keep prompting the GPT to make it even more and more specific. And again, as your tool, I haven't named my ChatGPT yet. I'm going to get right on that. But as my tool gets to know me and my business better, it's going to come out more specific to you on the very first try. So that's an example of just thinking about a campaign structure and your first email of what that could look like. Next slide, please. So here I took this to my business and I said, okay, I want to create a 1-week Instagram marketing campaign to promote IDEA World Fitness and Nutrition Expo. And I gave it the dates. And so what it did was it spit back to me. Here, I only pasted the top 3 days, but it suggested, hey, first you've got to introduce the event to your audience. And here's how you might do that. It gave me some text ideas, some hashtag ideas. Some of those are not my hashtags, but they're cool. I could go back and fine tune those. And then speaker highlights would be the suggestion for day 2, where we'd start sharing the tiles of the speakers and what they're talking about. And then on day 3, going deeper into the workshop and session previews. So again, this took me, I think 5 minutes to pull this out, and then I could go back and curate it. So next slide. So then I asked ChatGPT, I said, okay, give me 3 different types of looks, different styles of how I might promote this event. If we didn't already have our own style guide and a curated look, or if I just was looking for a fresh kind of look, I said, give me some different looks. So look 1 was modern and sleek, and it also gave me some verbiage to go with that look. I noticed it still has a lot of typos, which I quickly reported right back to my chatbot to say, hey, you're spelling nutrition wrong, etc. But it was interesting, right? And I never would have thought to take this direction, nor will we, but it was just interesting. Look number 2 was vibrant and energetic. So here's a different look for Idea World that we might consider. And lastly, look number 3 that ChatGPT suggested was professional and informative. And this one seemed more in tune with our brand, but of course, we already have our own style guide. So my marketing team uses these more specifically with our style guide. They've trained ChatGPT which colors we use, which fonts we use, so that, and all of our hashtags, so that when it is providing information, it's much more clear. Before I go into the next slide, though, I also want to point out that, like, our events team uses ChatGPT. We use it to enhance our campaigns, but also our marketing messages. So when we're trying to get very specific about the people we're looking for in specific markets, our events team will use this just like the ways we pointed out. You know, tell me the top 10 ways to promote to fitness professionals in the LA market who are working in the Pilates sector, et cetera. So we use it that way just to help prompt, build campaigns, and more importantly, understand our avatar so that we can get more and more efficient. And then I talked about how we're using it in service team, but also for our content team, we use this to build structure. At this point, we use it really to help us with creating how we produce the content for our members, and the calendar, if you will, of how we put out newsletters and magazines. And then as the tool gets to learn our business, we're starting to understand more of its capabilities around content. They're not writing our articles at this point. They are helping us write our marketing message, but we use human authors for all of our articles. I don't know if those authors are using ChatGPT to write their articles, but I would venture to say they might be, some of it. And then last slide, Brian, I think this is my last one. Uh-oh, front row. I went into the kind of the pros and cons of using this for marketing. Did it take my slide out? It was the good one.
For some reason, I don't know why.
I'll
Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll share it.
Okay. It's a good one because I used it. I used Dolly for the first time just to show how easy it was. And I used each of our panelists' images from LinkedIn and I put them into Dolly, and it gave us our cartoon characters. So hopefully we can get that to come up. Oh, shoot.
All
right.
Well, I don't know what happened, but we will share that. I like that idea. I'm going to update
again, just high level. Yeah, we're using it in all different ways in the business, but from an organizational standpoint, it's we're not replacing roles and people yet, but we are using this to help us be more efficient in our work. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you are a business owner out there, think once your team gets efficient with using this, it's going to increase efficiencies, and you might find that there's going to be cost savings or org changes that can be made because people are working smarter and things are taking less time. So efficiencies are huge, cost savings.
Thank you, Amy. Outstanding observation. So to recap, real simply, look, get the tool if you haven't already, experiment with it, use these resources that we referenced. Of course, you're going to get the information directly shared with you with a resource list, and there's content for you to reference afterwards. And now the best part let me look at here for any chat and Q&A. I see some questions in here. Let's, boy, we have a lot of people on here asking. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And all right, let's see, Q&A right here. Thank you so much. Anybody has some questions going to the Q&A? I see chat, I don't see anything in there. So any questions? We have a few minutes put aside for you to answer or ask any questions for our panelists.
I would love to add something to what she was saying. For personal trainers and for group fitness instructors or small independent clubs, using ChatGPT for helping to design and create marketing campaigns and the such is one of the ways that you can sort of level out the playing field, that you can look like a big player in the field, even if you're independent. And you know, I've seen health club owners take it on who are, you know, they open the club, they run the club, they personal train the people at the club, and then they also create the marketing now. And these are just tools to make things better. And so
that's right. And Amy showed that with her marketing efforts. I think that's a great observation. And in my marketing company, same thing. I mean, we've been using these technologies for longer than most, and it's been a tremendous tool for us. Any other questions? Ted, tell me, how many people are in your class at Tulane, and what are you finding when it comes to teaching people about the tools? What are some interesting observations that you had around? Are you teaching a younger set of people generally, or how are people embracing this?
I teach the undergraduate and graduate classes. Grad classes, probably about 8 students, obviously online because I'm in San Diego. Undergraduate, I get about 15 to 20. The first thing they say is, Dr. V, are you sure you want us to use ChatGPT? No other professor lets us do it. And I say, absolutely. I do say this, though. I say, tell me that you used it, because I want to be able to show you ways in which you can improve it. Now, there's a little trick to that. People, the pure academics say, well, you know, how are you going to know that they were the ones that wrote the paper? And I said, well, how about this? I'll change the assignment to a video of them explaining what they did. AI can't replace that. So there are ways around doing these things that you can do. I have found it, and I think Amy pointed this out. You can create images and graphics in ChatGPT, but check the spelling. You even tell ChatGPT you spelled something wrong. It's still it doesn't. It's not very good with it. DAL is a lot better, but again, you know, check that work. Make sure that you are doing things correctly. And I know, Bryan, you saw that I won a teaching award at Tulane, and someone said, what did you do differently? I'll tell you a little secret. Here's what I did. At the beginning of the course, I went through and I copied all of the assignments, everything that was due every week. I put it in the ChatGPT and said, I want you to create a welcome email for this week. Tell them what they're going to learn, tell them the due dates, and give them a dad joke at the end. And it did it. It did it. And then I won this award. So I'm thinking, you could be an award-winning professor if you figure out how to use ChatGPT.
Brilliant, Ted. Love the story. Outstanding. Amy, out in your world where you're working with so many different people in the fitness space, internationally as well as in the United States, what are you hearing mostly as far as, you know, trepidation, concern? What do you see?
I've been hearing the concern it's going to replace the personal trainer, and there are some people out there saying that it will and suggesting that it will. I'm not of that mindset. I'm of the mindset of this panel is that there will always be tools that can detract or enhance our business, and it's up to us to make a differentiation. But one of the cons, it didn't show my con slide. I think one of the biggest cons to point out, aside from the spelling errors, is that it doesn't have emotional EQ, right? There's no empathy. You could ask it to have empathy, but it may not be timed right, or it may not come across correctly. And so there will always be a human element that we layer in. It's going to get more and more sophisticated, but I think that's the piece that it really, really lacks at this time is the human touch and the emotional IQ. And I was just going to layer in, last night I was helping my daughter with an assignment that she had to turn in by midnight on Friday night. And she was reviewing an article and writing a paper. And I suggested that she get some ideas from GPT. And I quickly got a lecture about how high schoolers are absolutely not allowed to use Chat GPT. And in fact, one student took a sentence from Wikipedia and got almost expelled from school in that class. So I was like, oh goodness, I don't know how teachers are finding how kids are using it. But anyway, in the high school, they're being cautioned strongly against using it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure, like Ted said before, the tractor came along and maybe we need to rethink some of those things.
That's right, 100%.
Yeah. Chris, what do you have to say, my friend?
So I love what Tricia said is it gives smaller operators and smaller businesses leverage, right? So in the past, when you didn't have the budget of some of the big chains and the big companies to have a full-on marketing department, marketing team, and all those resources, now you do. If you learn how to use these tools properly, that positions you to be just as competitive. So I thought that was really insightful. But what's interesting too is, talking about just saving time, energy, and resources. We used to have a process for doing our social media for the Empower group where we had a shared Google Excel sheet, and we would decide if this should be a reel, if this should be a photo post, if this should be a carousel post, and then I would have to write the caption, then I would have to figure out the hashtag. Like, it was this huge process that we would go back and forth. Then we'd have to shoot all of it, and it was time consuming. And I remember, for some reason, I liked writing at my local Starbucks, but I would sit there for hours, right? And I would caption after caption and trying to be clever and all of those things. And now, I mean, I've cut the time, it takes 10% of the time it used to by using these tools properly. Again, double checking the spelling, double checking, make sure everything is factually correct. I mean, you have to put the energy into that, but it just gives you that leverage. So as a smaller consulting firm, now we can bang with the big boys because we've got these resources that are helping us. It's just crazy. And then, Amy, you mentioned creating virtual graphics and all of those things. Canva, which I love, which is an incredible design tool that has the AI capabilities, has a plugin for Chat GPT. Right. So the two of them can work together. Now, full disclosure, I've used it. It doesn't work that well yet. But as they work out the kinks, we're going to have a situation where you've got an absolute full-on design tool that can create slide decks, marketing materials, social posts, like anything you could ever need, flyers, whatever, through ChatGPT and all that technology together. And that is just so powerful if you take the time to learn it and leverage it.
Yeah, great observations. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to add something that I think we all have to think about. Our industry has always grown and been based on personas, right? A gym has a persona, an event has a persona, a brand has a persona. And I look at it from a casting perspective. When we do castings, whether Fitbit or Amazon or any of the castings I've worked on, we hire personas. And when we look at something like Peloton is digital platform. It didn't take us away from the gym because it was a digital platform. It was the personalities that took people away from going in person. And so what I say is it's even more important as you move into this new space that you are hiring and building personas. So your brand needs a persona. If you're hiring talent for your group fitness classes, you should have a person. I'll send everybody sort of the personas you want to have in your team, but you need to have that broad range, whether it's your personal training staff or your group fitness staff, because those are the personas that supersede technology, that supersede AI, VR, all of it. And the personas bring fitness to life, and we cannot forget that, but we also need to foster it and care for it. So if you have trainers or group fitness instructors that have these bold, amazing personalities, what can you do to cultivate it and let them be who they are and let them be the glue that keeps your business.
Yeah, using the tool, but keeping the context. Yeah. Exactly. You got to understand that. That's a very, very good point. Well, listen, I want to tell you all, thank you.
Thank you.
It was awesome to see you. Ted, love you, Ted. Keep doing the magical work. Amy, can't wait for IDEA. Just a number of weeks away. Awesome stuff. It's going to be fantastic there. Chris, always great to see you, my brother. And I'm so thankful for all of you who attended. As we mentioned, we're going to be sending out resources, right?
Ton of resources.
Ton of resources. And look, for me, Bryan K. O'Rourke, follow me on LinkedIn, all the social accounts. You want specific questions answered about anything having to do with this technology or anything else, I'm here. Follow all the other folks on this call. They're all active in the social spaces. And we look forward to seeing you in IDEA or one of the other events later in the year and online as well. So again, so grateful to have you all here. Thank you for attending. I hope this was a valuable experience for everyone that was on the webinar.
I would.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed it.
That's
All right,
awesome.
Thank you. So much fun. Bye, everybody. See you at
All right, thank
8.
you.